So again, I'm introducing our panelists. We thank him for joining us this evening to have this important discussion. Mr. Michael Imhotep. Mr. Michael Imhotep is a historian, radio show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. Founder of the African History Network, Imhotep has used his platform to empower, inspire, and educate African Americans and people of African descent around the world. Mr. Imhotep is a lifelong Detroiter. Academically, he went from the world-renowned Cass Technical High School to acquiring a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration at Wayne State University. It was there that Imhotep developed a passion for history. Through his work, Michael Imhotep has spent the past 30 years focused on understanding how politics impacts every aspect of the lives of African Americans and how to leverage our economics to enforce a political agenda. Please, let's give him a hand.
This is Lavonia Perryman, President of the National Congress of Black Women, Metro Detroit, and also political commentator, is an experienced educator and journalist. Her knowledge of the legislative process, policies, and procedures have aided her while working in a historic and in many historic campaigns. Ms. Lavonia Perryman is the host of the Lavonia Perryman Show, or 9:10 a.m., and we hope that you all are tuning in. That's 9:10 a.m. in Detroit. And again, she is a political commentator for the Detroit ABC affiliate, WXYZ TV. As head of a media relations and communications company based in Detroit, Ms. Perryman's footprint on Michigan politics has been cemented. A Media Woman of the Year award recipient from Detroit's Women in Radio and Television, Perryman's clientele has included the late President Nelson Mandela, Oscar winner Denzel Washington, Dr. Dorothy L. Height, and the National Council of Negro Women. Let us please welcome Mrs. Perryman. And now we will turn it over to our moderator, Attorney Lance.
Again, good evening, and thank you both for joining us this evening. I'm so looking forward to this wonderful conversation that we are going to have this evening regarding Project 2025.
Yes.
Now, most of us, we've heard of the term Project 2025. We've heard that it's a 922-page document, but I don't think that most of us understand that it is a mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. Okay? Right. So, we know a little bit, but we don't know much. Now, when we began talking about the whole idea of Project 2025, one of the things that I did was I initially went to the first page of the document. And I found this very, very interesting because if you pay attention to what's going on in the media, you get different versions of this is not me, this is not what it is. But this is what it says. A note on Project 2025. We want you. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is a conservative movement, unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 noon, January 20th, 2025. Welcome to the mission. By opening this book, you are now a part of it. Indeed, one set of eyes reading these passages will be those of the 47th President of the United States. And we hope every other reader will join in making the incoming administration a success. That's the first paragraph of this 922-page document. So the first question I want to ask you all is, when understanding Project 2025, can you provide an overview of Project 2025 and its core objectives? Second, how do you envision it impacting the Black and Brown communities and communities in general, if applied? Ms. Perryman, we'll start with you.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so very much for being here. I never thought I would compete with President Obama. And you know what I mean, he's down the street. Yeah. I have to tell him that, I had an audience also. And I will let him know. Michelle is, by the way, on the 26th, just so you'll know that. But anyway, this project, real simple. This is real simple. This is not brain surgery. This is a plan of 900 pages to take your rights away. Period. It is to take you back, further back than your great-grandmother, Big Mama, and everyone else who fought for you to be here and for me to be sitting here with you. Every word that I read, I went a little further than the first page, like you did, speaks to making sure if the person they wrote it for, the guy who said that Palmer was big, who is really out there that we have to entertain, and I just can't figure out why our sister has to even dignify him, but that's another story. But anyway, this package and program that they put together, they've been working on this older than you. This is a plan that's been written, drafted, edited for the last 50-some years. 50-some years they've been working on this. And here we are. They found someone in this person who's running for president that bought into every word, every verb, every adjective of what's happening, that will take you and me back before the Civil War. Laws that were created, the education department that was created right around the Civil War. If this man wins, they're talking about eliminating the entire department. So I said, let me check and see how many sisters I know are teachers. And if you could raise your hand, right away. Teacher at any level. My mother taught for 40 years. And that's what one of the places that we could go to school or get a job in the 30s and 40s when you graduated from Wayne State, Spelman, Howard, Allen, Winston-Salem. The only job basically you could get was on the train or teaching at a school. They're talking about eliminating the entire department. And there are about 5 other departments that we're going to talk about. This is not about massaging, editing, creating, revising plans, ideas, programs, laws. This package says we are going to eliminate your church. Your church as it stands today. Your school as it stands today. Your housing situation as it stands today. The place where you take care of your mom and dad. How you take care of them. Eliminate. Ain't no editing in this. The only editors in this plan is you when you vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Okay, so I've been on Lavonia's radio show a number of times.
Many times.
I'm Michael Imhotep. I was also a host on 910 AM Superstation WFDF for 7 years. A lot of people see me on Roland Martin and Filtered every Friday. I'm a historian and national political commentator. So Project 2025 was released from the Heritage Foundation in April 2023. I found out about it in September 2023 on Avi Velsh's show on MSNBC. So I've been talking about Project 2025 since 2023. It's from the Heritage Foundation.
Right.
The Heritage Foundation was created in 1973 by Paul Wayrick. Okay, it's an ultra-conservative right-wing think tank. They have been putting out, this is called Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. They have been putting out a Mandate for Leadership policy playbook since 1981. This is not the first one. They've been putting, they do it each election cycle. In 1981, they did it because of who was coming into office, okay? That first term of that president in 1981, they adopted 64% of the policies that the Heritage Foundation put out in Mandate for Leadership in 1981. It contained 2,000 policies. This is on page 5 of Project 2025. They tell you that that administration at that time adopted 64% of their policies. In 2018, there's an article at the Heritage Foundation's website from January 2018. They tell you that the president at that time adopted 64% of the policies that came from Mandate for Leadership in 2018. Okay? Now, what's different this time around is because people found out about it because of Taraji P. Henson at the BET Awards. I was warning people about this in 2023. People didn't believe me. I saw people doing podcasts saying, well, it can't get any worse. Yes, it can. If you understand history, yes, it can get worse. And there has always been a backlash to any perceived periods of advancement that African Americans have made. After the Civil War, you had the Reconstruction era. Reconstruction ended 1877 with the Compromise of 1877, which leads to the Jim Crow era and the rewriting of state legislatures. The reason why you need the 1965 Voting Rights Act is because of what happened in Mississippi in 1890 when they rewrote the state constitution, imposed poll taxes and literacy tests to suppress the African American vote. So when we look at Project 2025, what it's really doing is federalizing a lot of policies that have been put into place in a lot of red states, former Confederate states. There's a direct relationship between the states that were part of the Confederacy, the 11 states part of the Confederacy, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and the policies they have today. One of the things that they want to do is abolish the Department of Education. The Department of Education was created in 1979, okay? The Department of Education enforced Brown versus Board of Education. You have to understand the backlash to 1954, Brown versus Board of Education. There was a movement, there was a resistance movement that came out of Virginia in 1956 called Massive Resistance. Massive Resistance was the effort to fight against the desegregation of schools. So what they started doing was using vouchers and to give poor white children vouchers to go to private schools to keep them segregated, okay? Then in 1976, you have the presidential election, but also in 1976, what happens is Paul Wayrick teams up with a man named Jerry Falwell. They create what's known as the religious right movement. What happened was all the anger and massive resistance around school desegregation got redirected into the anti-abortion movement, which was the birth of the religious right movement. Okay, you have to understand how all this is connected. So when they talk about attacking and dismantling the Department of Education, the Department of Education enforces civil rights in schools. It distributes student loan forgiveness because they're against student loan forgiveness. It funds HBCUs, all of this. And there has always been a hatred and animosity from those former Confederate states having to desegregate the schools, and that came from the federal government being forced to do that from the federal government, as well as later, 1979, 1980, the Department of Education. Okay, so Project 2025 is what they're doing is federalizing a lot of these conservative laws we see in states, attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion, attacking affirmative action. Okay, this is what we see here. Something else that we see as well is a national ban on abortion, okay? But they're going to use the Comstock Act of 1873. Okay, now the Comstock Act of 1873 is during the Reconstruction era. All right, this is like 8 years after slavery ended. But it would bring about a national ban on abortion, as well as contraceptives, okay, as well as abortion pills, things like this. Now, when they talk about in Project 2025, they don't call it the Comstock Act. They refer to it by as U.S. Criminal Code. I think it's USC 1461, 1462, something like that. They're really slick with how they do it. I know the game that they're playing, okay? They refer to it as the U.S. Criminal Code. So this is, now what's so diabolical about this is when you read this, they tell you it's a 180-day playbook for the first 180 days of an incoming administration. So if you wrote 922 pages for the first 6 months, what do you have planned for the other 3.5 years? Okay, so when I teach about this, I deal with history, economics, law, and politics. And one of the things I talk about, and I talked about this on Lavonia Perryman's show, she can vouch for this, I said we have to stop telling African Americans to exercise your right to vote. You don't vote for exercise, you vote for power. Everybody else understands this. If you want to exercise, go to the gym and work out. Everybody votes for power. You vote for policies that are beneficial to you, your community, your families, etc. Okay, so we have to do the same thing and understand that politics is the legal distribution of both scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So when we study Project 2025, it brings together history, economics, law, and politics. So this is what we have to master to be able to fight back.
Thank you. So when taking into consideration the other topic that you mentioned outside of the Department of Education, you did bring the topic of abortion. What other potential areas of concern should we be focused on when evaluating the Project 2025 agenda once it is adopted and implemented?
Right. I'm glad you brought up the issue of abortion. That was the issue that we all hear and we understand, because the media is a driving force. The media is a driving force of what we believe in, believe it or not. Because I keep telling folk, stars are not born, stars are created. Think about the man that is running. When he walked into running for office, he was already a celebrity. He was already in your living room and your bedroom and everywhere else. So he took those people and brought them in. And so they're there today. So our country is divided. But then we have the sisters that don't look like us, who have a larger voice in the media, who said, oh my Lord, that's what they said. They have taken our issue, abortion, and they have really dismantled it. But in the middle of all of the, and I'm going to get to the next part, because there's a part that we miss sometimes, because the media is not sharing this with us at the level I think they should. Inside of the abortion question are African American women that lose their lives every single day. 1 out of 3 of us die. That's not the conversation. That's not the conversation. So some men, unfortunately, and some women run around, well, you know, I understand about the bullshit, but you know, the Bible says. No, this is not about the Bible at all. Remember, the Bible was used to put our great-grandparents in the, where? In the same church upstairs in the dark. Same Bible. We can argue it all day. I'm just trying to break it down what we are looking at when we talk about this. This is about, I say it all the time, money, votes, and power. That is welcome to America. So the abortion question for us sitting in this room may be the big picture. But the sisters understand, when you get to go to the doctor, this program says if they dismantle everything in the abortion question, there will not be Medicare, Medicaid, and then you're going to have to probably fight to get a decent insurance coverage policy. Let me say it again. This is not about editing or anything. They're talking about dismantling Medicaid, Medicare, and any other health initiatives that we benefit from. They've been working on the dismantling Obama since he started. They're still working on it, just so you know. And if we do not show our power, as Mike says, our power on the day that we can, the next day he will write into an executive order, because he doesn't have a plan, an executive order that will go away. So anybody who has a child who's around 25 or 26 on your insurance today, in 9 days, 10 days, well, let me put it this way. On January the 21st of 2025, that person might not be able to qualify. That's what we're talking about when we talk about health care. That's what we're talking about abortion. That's what we're talking about. This is bigger and more, but they're talking about your birth control pill. Birth control pills, brothers, just so you know, are given to some sisters because of pain. I'm going to say it out loud so everybody can understand what we're talking about. Talking about an illness that a child a young lady might be, excuse me. Your child or your grandchild, if she's a female, is not just about a birth control pill. That's the name of it. The birth control pill is a medicine. A medicine for many women, black, white, Jew, Gentile, whatever. So understand when they say, oh, we're going to eliminate the birth control pill. What? Some women won't be able to get up in the morning and go to work or feed their child or bathe their child because they're in pain, human nature pain. And these men know this. I want to go back in a little history. The young man who is one of the authors of this program wrote a dissertation on slavery in New Orleans and said that everything that they, white individuals, made a mistake when they allowed us to be free. That's how long ago. This is not something new. He's telling you the truth. They have been doing that. Reagan was one of the guys who eased into one of their proposals. Eased into. But today, they have a gentleman. Is that what he is? I knew you all wake up. We have a person who is willing to take all 900 plus pages and take you back, way back. That's why. Let me go at the civil servants, and I did this real quick. Civil servants' jobs. Quote from the Civil Service Census Bureau, of the census, 53% of the civil service jobs are African American employees. 53% of the civil service jobs, clerical, 53%. 32% of the professional jobs among jobs and the civil service, African Americans. In this program, that would be eliminated. Gone. This is not everything. This is what they said. We're going to eliminate the process of how those individuals get jobs, to take care of their families, to go to school, to live a life, to make a difference in the community. 53% of the people that they're attacking today in this program are African Americans.
Thank you. So, thinking about the civil servants and how being able to get a job at a federal level is usually done from a civil servant perspective, I want to talk about economic empowerment. So, economic empowerment, it is a critical issue in many marginalized communities. And can you explain us, Mike, how Project 2025 addresses economic development and job creation, specifically as it relates to both Black and brown communities?
All right, thanks. And also that was 18 USC 1461. Okay, that's what that's the criminal code for the Comstock Act of 1873. So, picking up on what Lavonia said in answering your question, this deals with the Schedule F employees. This is one example, the Schedule F employees. Now, I first found out about the Schedule F employees in July 23rd, 2022 from Axios.com, an article that Jonathan Swan wrote. Now, this is before Mandate for Leadership Project 2025 came out in April 2023. So what it is you have about 4,000, thank you. You have about 4,000 presidential appointees. You have about 4,000 political appointees that presidents make. One of the things that Project 2025 wants to do is to reclassify these employees as Schedule F and make it so the president can appoint up to about 50,000 people. They're going to have a database of loyalists to the president, totally redoing how this operates, because civil servants they're not loyal to a president, they're loyal to the U.S. Constitution, okay? They serve the country. They want the president to have loyalists around him to be able to execute whatever it is that he wants, okay? So 18% of federal employees are African American. And we over-index when it comes to federal employees because it was the federal government. They were the first ones to implement affirmative action, equal employment opportunity, things of this nature, okay? So we over-index there. So when you talk about firing up to 50,000 employees, that's going to be a lot of us and our parents, grandparents, etc., a lot of us who get fired, okay? Number one. Number two, they're going to attack diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, like you've seen at state levels, but they're going to do it at the federal level. Okay, now, in 2020, all right, and I understand you all are 501c3, I know how it is. In 2020, the sitting president in 2020 did an executive order to reclassify federal employees as Schedule F. The president that came in after that president rescinded that executive order. But now you have that as one of the main policies of Project 2025 for them to execute this. So it's going to, a lot of us are going to lose jobs, one. Two, you're going to, also they are against student loan forgiveness, okay? So that is going to hurt us economically. And another thing that they want to do is do away with any minority business set-asides, anything like that, all right? So that will definitely hurt African-American owned businesses as well. The programs that were created going back to the Nixon administration, all right? They want to do away with all of that. Now, it's important to tie this to the Department of Education, and even though the majority of control over education is at the state and local level, what we see is at the state and local level, we see laws being passed dealing with banning books and attacking critical race theory, okay, and attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion. What we're looking at is an attempt to suppress the teaching of history, dealing with the history of slavery, dealing with the civil rights movement, things of this nature. But at the same time, they want to take laws from the same period of history that they're trying to suppress the teaching of to attack us in the present and the future. Okay, so the Fearless Fund, the African-American woman that created the grants, $20,000 grants for female entrepreneurs of color, okay, they got sued by a conservative activist, Ed Bloom, using the Civil Rights Act of 1866. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was for African Americans. It was the year after slavery ended. It was designed to allow us to enter into labor contracts, negotiate wages. Now you want to suppress the teaching of that history, but use that same law to attack us. The Comstock Act, 1873, that's during Reconstruction. Now you have them wanting to use the Alien and Sedition Act of 1798, 5 years before the Louisiana Purchase. That's the same law that was used in 1942 to put Japanese in internment camps. They're talking about using that law to round up what they call undocumented immigrants on stolen land. That's another conversation. But round up undocumented immigrants and ship them back. Okay? So this is real. You don't put together a 922-page plan because you don't plan to use it.
That's serious.
That's right.
That's very serious.
So when thinking about these efforts that they're trying to make, it seems to me that it comes down to us being able to vote what our concerns are and understanding the potential policies that they're trying to push as relates to their agenda. And we know that there are policies that are related to voting rights that are very critical. And they're trying to tighten voting laws and roles, making it disproportionately impact certain communities. So we know historically we have faced challenges at the ballot box. Okay, it seems like, it's a 360 that's going around. It started, what did you say the Sedition Act was 17 what?
That was 17. That was 1798. Indian Sedition Act, 1798.
1798, so now it's 2024. It's coming around again. So
our great grandmothers had to walk miles to find a polling place.
absolutely.
Remember, they didn't share the information. So we had to find the polling place, find it. You get there, and there was someone who could determine if you were on time and could you count beans.
So with that, how does Project 2025 address voting rights? And does it support or either truly hinder political empowerment? And I'm gonna tell you why I'm asking that, because you know what, I hear you. I understand what you're saying.
Wait.
But it's people out here who don't think like that now.
The program, they wrote this, but before it was written, just think of Georgia. I'm gonna just use Georgia right now. Right now, there is a law in Georgia, which by the way, elected 2 senators, which I think is awesome.
Yes.
That has a discussion about they want people to count by hand now, every vote in 2024. Now that's not in the program. See,
But the
they're
Georgia
slick.
Supreme Court, they denied that.
That's right.
They denied that.
That's slick. They try to get it in there. And the reason I'm bringing that up, because you're right now. In the program, they did 990 some pages. At the party or the cocktail party, there's about another 1,000 pages. And what they also have done with my Republican friends, they have figured out, because we're in a nonprofit environment, they have decided to do what the mafia did. They have decided to do what the mafia did. To go to Belle Isle, I'm going to use just Belle Isle, and have a conversation. So what you asked is not printed in the program book, in the 900 pages. But they do have a program to prevent you to voting the proper way, the easiest way, every single day. What is out here today at Wayne County Community College to vote, there are people like you and you and you. I thank you so very much. We would not be here having this conversation and voting today if you didn't do what you did last year, the year before, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This is a process. So we have to be in the game. If you ain't in the game, you lose. Their game has been going on. Mike has told you. They got angry the day our great-great-grandmothers and grandfathers said, we shall overcome. That day. And they have sworn through birth and death, they were going to take their country back. And so this is what this conversation is about. And so we're trying to break the pieces down so you can understand it. But you got the power. Trust me. We got the power to make a difference.
I'm not going to ask you in 9 days to read this. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just ask that you do what you need to do today by November the 5th. And then you can say, we shall overcome. I am somebody. Hope and change. It's a man's world, but without a woman. Yes, we can.
Yeah, we're not going back.
We're not going back. I'm telling you guys, if you went out here today and gave the energy that you give the party, the man that you like, the girl that you like, and the family that you love, all of that, if you gave that kind of power up and said, I'm going to make sure that everybody in my family has what Mike says, the power, because you have it. You don't have to count beans. They're trying to convince you that you have to count beans, but you don't. What you have to do is get on the phone and get in a car or a van, whatever, and make sure that anybody, I don't care who they are, support our nation so we don't have to have this conversation 4 years from now. Because they're going to continue. From birth to death, they said they're going to take their country back. This is nothing new to them. This is not new. Not new.
Yeah, so let me connect some dots here quickly. So Lavonia mentioned Senate Bill 201 in Georgia. That was pushed in Georgia in the state legislature, and the governor signed it into law. It was because of the narrative of the big lie that was pushed, that the 2020 election was stolen, okay? That bill was crafted by Heritage Action for America. I have the evidence. Ari Melber wrote an article for MotherJones.com in 2021 who exposed the executive director of Heritage Action for America, admitting that it was her organization that wrote that bill. You can read the article, the videos there of her admitting it. Heritage Action for America is the sister organization to the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is the organization that wrote Project 2025. That bill, Senate Bill 201, was copied in other state legislatures. This is how they were able to do it so quickly. She said they had copycat bills that other state legislatures quickly passed and the governor signed into law. Well, this is the same thing that happened in 1890 when you had the Mississippi Plan. Go research the Mississippi Plan of 1890. This is when they rewrote the state constitutions in the state constitution of Mississippi to impose poll taxes, literacy tests, property ownership requirements, to suppress the African American vote because African Americans were the majority of the population in the state of Mississippi. And they feared our political power. Well, what Mississippi did, and to quote Solomon Saladin Calhoun, who was the white county judge who presided over the convention, he said, we came here to exclude the Negro. They were very explicit on why they were there. What they did in Mississippi became copied in South Carolina, 1895, Louisiana, 1898, Oklahoma, 1901, Georgia. They did the same thing. The same thing that they did with Senate Bill 201, they did in the 1890s and early 1900s, okay? Because they feared our political power. If you go back to 3 years after slavery ended, 1868 in Florida. In 2018, in Florida, they had on the ballot an initiative to restore voting rights to convicted felons. Who remembers that? I remember it vividly. I remember Roland Martin covering it. Okay, I covered it on the African History Network show, right? In Florida, you lost your right to vote for life if you were convicted of a felony. Well, where did that come from? That came from 1868 in Florida when they rewrote the state constitution in Florida 3 years after slavery ended. And one, they expanded the number of crimes that were classified as felonies. One. Two, they were specifically targeting African Americans. You lost your right to vote if you had a felony. Three, the reason why they did it, they said they did it to prevent a Negro legislature. Because African Americans were 48% of the state population of Florida in 1868, 3 years after slavery ended, and Florida's a former Confederate state. So when you study this history, there's always been a fear of the political power of the African Americans. And they've used laws, insurrections, riots, etc. to suppress our vote. Project 2025 is continuing that, okay? That's what I want to say. So study Heritage Action for America and what they did with the voter suppression laws after the 2020 election. And they're continuing it now. They're challenging in court. They keep passing laws. In Georgia, they wanted, in a county in Georgia, the county board voted to hand count the ballots. Here's what happens. If they can't certify the election results by the deadline, they don't count.
Right. They throw them out.
If they can't certify the election results, so somebody can win Georgia. But if they can't, those votes can't be certified by the deadline, they don't count. This is skullduggery. This is treachery. And we have to understand how people fight, okay? So I tell people we have to understand history, economics, law, and politics. Everything they do to us, they use the law to do it. Then when they get caught breaking the law, they go hire an attorney at law to defend them in the court of law. We need to understand the law better than they understand the law. So we can disarm them of that weapon they use it against them. You have to understand political self-defense. But you have to understand the history behind this to understand what's taking place today.
Break it down. That's right. Break it down.
I was supposed to be an attorney. When I wrote at Wayne State, I wrote as a pre-law major, but ended up graduating from the business school.
It's still time. You still got time. Come on, get the bar exam waiting on you. It's time now.
You know, you brought up the idea of, people who have felony convictions back in Florida and stopping them from voting.
Yes.
So I just want to, I guess, juxtapose that with what's going on now. Because when you look at America, one thing that is at the forefront as well is criminal justice reform.
Yes.
Right? So we see it more so being talked about in both black and brown communities because it seems as if it affects us more. I'm going to say it that way. Because I'm not going to say that it necessarily affects us more when you look at the actual numbers. But it seems that it affects us more. And so I know that our communities have advocated for, reform to things as systemic racism, mass incarceration, police brutality. And when you look at a lot of conservative movements, the criminal justice reform, it's really more so about law and order, not necessarily reform in the way that we tend to think about that type of reform. So when looking at this Project 2025, which probably in all likelihood does not align with reform-oriented goals of many social justice movements, how does Project 2025 align or weigh against this principle?
Well, we'll make this one real short, because this one can be short. This is for the brothers that we love. They would have a target on their back. Just that simple. They already have a target on their back. This target would be larger, and this program, this project says that law enforcement from the top, from the White House to Precinct 10, will have the right to define justice and law in your community. What does that mean? So you're at the red light and you decide to move your car a little faster than someone else. And someone who's in a uniform, I see that. This is not what I'm making up. This is research. That law enforcement person could determine if you broke the law by moving your car while the light is red. I'm using that as an example because this is so bizarre. That's not written like that. But I'm giving you an example. But guess what? They can not only give you a ticket, you could be arrested, And don't, my brothers, make a move, the wrong move, and something unfortunately happens like with George Floyd. The officer that took his life is spending time in this program from the White House to Precinct 10. That law officer could keep his job and possibly get a pension. That's the color I'm giving to you. That's the real deal. The language would be a Wayne State University, Michigan language. But the real deal is that brother might not come home that night based on what they're writing in there in terms of criminal justice. Guess what? And it does say that law enforcement officers, they could be, what's the word, Mike? Not excused, but they could be
Immune.
Immune,
Yes.
even in death.
Yeah, immune from criminal
Yes,
prosecution.
that's right.
Immune from criminal.
Yes.
So let me hit on this.
Yes.
A few points. Number one of the things that Project 2025 would do is restructure and repurpose the U.S. Department of Justice.
Yes.
It's important to understand the history of the U.S. Department of Justice. U.S. Department of Justice was created in 1870 during Reconstruction, passed by Congress, largely to enforce the new rights of African Americans. One of the first things that they did, the first Attorney General of the U.S. Department of Justice, his name was Amos T. Ackerman. What did he start doing? Prosecuting Ku Klux Klan members who were attacking African Americans in the South, attacking Republicans, and attacking elected officials, things of this nature. 1871, the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 is passed by Congress. It's still on the books today. It's still on the books today. President Ulysses S. Grant in 1871 declared martial law in 9 counties in South Carolina to enforce the Ku Klux Klan Act, to crack down on Klan activity, right? And they were being prosecuted by the U.S. Department of Justice. One of the things that Project 2025 would do is one, it would ban and end the consent decrees with police departments, because you've had in previous administrations that had a closer watch on police departments and they did investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments that had a lot of complaints about abuse, things like this. That's coming from the federal government. When you see this theme, there's a constant theme that you see, and as a historian I understand this, there's a constant theme of southern states saying that the federal government is overstepping their authority. This is what they said led to the U.S. Civil War. They said the Confederacy said it was about states' rights. When you read their statements of secession, they said it was about states' rights. Okay, so one, they want to restructure and repurpose the U.S. Department of Justice. Two, they want to back out of and end consent decrees with police departments, which will then give a signal to certain police departments that you can do whatever you want to.
Right.
Okay? So you don't necessarily have to pass a law that says police are 100% immune. The U.S. Department of Justice just doesn't have to prosecute them. They just won't prosecute them. Okay? Also, what it would do is enforce the death penalty where appropriate and applicable. Okay? Well, you only had, for 60 years, you only had 3 people who were executed at the federal level. Okay? Then you had a president who executed 13 people in the last 6 months of his presidency. Go research this. And also it's talking about giving the death penalty for drug dealers. Okay? That's in Project 2025. Something else that it would do is there has been, over the past few years, because of the Black Lives Matter movement, things of this nature, and then the protests around the death of George Floyd, you've had an increase in the progressive prosecutors at the local level, where there has been an attack from the conservative movement against the progressive prosecutors who are the ones who would prosecute police officers, who are the ones who would try to find alternative measures for people who are first-time offenders, things like this, to especially in African American and Latino communities. They want to go after progressive prosecutors who refuse to prosecute crimes at the lower level as well. This is all in Project 2025. So now, going back to I'm gonna wrap it with this. Going back to felony disenfranchisement. There's a history behind felony disenfranchisement. Okay, the British Center for Justice has a lot of information on this. Now, in Maine and Vermont, the states of Maine and Vermont, right now, you know it's legal for convicted felons who are sitting in prison to vote for prison. Did you know this? In Maine and Vermont, go research this. NBC News has an article on this. Why Maine and Vermont? Because Maine and Vermont historically don't have large numbers of African Americans. When you go study the history of the states that had those felony disenfranchisement laws, especially when you lost your right to vote for life, usually they were in the South, usually they had large populations of African Americans, usually they were former Confederate states. Okay, so we have to understand, I tell people, your understanding of politics is directly related to your understanding of history. I teach this history. Okay, so I can see how it relates to politics and how it relates to today.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Y'all got me up here like thinking, like really thinking. I'm thinking some teachers that I had, who put a certain, certain things in my mind. And so I'm thinking, about what I have learned historically. I'm thinking about where my future for me, where my future for my daughter can go. But it also makes me look at Project 2025 and think about what its legacy and its sustainability could be, right? And so with that, where do you see the sustainability of Project 2025 being if it is implemented in 2025? And what legacy do you see the authors or leaders of this project hoping for future generations in Black and brown communities?
Well, I think that the program is written after the action in some cases. 2025 is written off of the history, as Mike said, not on our history, on their history. I just told you, they've been angry since we got here. So they have been planning 2025, 26, 27, 28 for a long time. Legacy, it will continue. Remember, this is a program that is ongoing until they put us in our place. Until they put us in our place, there will be another project. There will be another program. But if it is to be without a legacy and without legs, without air, it's up to us. That's a lot to carry now, I know. But we got some sisters and brothers out there that don't look like us. We got some people who don't look like us, who we may call progressives, liberals, call them what you want, but call them. So the legacy only will survive if we give it air, let it breathe. We have to choke it at the neck. We know how to do that. I have great faith in the African Americans. I am real clear on what we can do. Collectively, we have built a nation. What you talking about? We built a nation. River Rouge wouldn't be. Ford, Chrysler, General Motors, Motown wouldn't be without you. It just wouldn't be. So the legacy, this is going to go on. So what we have to do, we have to be we have to educate ourselves and share with your daughter. We have to have a plan of action. And
I want to say this again. It's about money, votes, and power. Don't get confused. Don't come up here and tell me about the Bible says, you know, bad things happen with money. No. You didn't buy all those sneakers out there without money. We need the money, because guess what? In this world, in the world we live in this country what we live in, the country and the people that we are fighting against, they use your money to implement, execute programs against you. We can't let that happen. But you got to have an agenda, a program. You have to have the gall to execute it too. It does take money, vote to equal power. It just does.
Okay, so the question was the lasting legacy of Project 2025? Yes. Was that? Well, this is a continuation of going back to 1981, Mandate for Leadership. And they keep trying. When you look at overturning Roe versus Wade, they've been trying to do that for almost 50 years, a little bit less than that or so, especially with the start of the religious right movement in 1976. So the lasting legacy has a lot to determine, is going to be really determined by what happens November 5th, the lasting legacy of it. Well, okay. And it's not just African Americans, Latinos, white people, Asian Americans. They're coming for all of us. African Americans and Latinos are going to get the brunt of this. This is a lot of backlash to the racial reckoning that took place after George Floyd was killed. Okay, and when you read this, you see a lot of attacks on that. The progress that was made from that. In any periods of time, a perceived progress that African Americans make, there's always a backlash. Okay, 1968 it was Law and Order. Okay, which was a backlash to the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power Movement, the things of this nature. Okay, now it was something that I wanted to hit on. So a lot of this deals with the fear of the browning of America. Yes. That's why you hear them talking about deporting undocumented immigrants, things like this. Okay, but when they had, but 4 years ago when they had the chance to do it, they didn't do it. They know the economy will collapse if they do that. So what they're doing is preying on the fears of a lot of people, especially a lot of white people, especially a lot of uneducated white people. What happens when you're no longer the majority population in this country? It's expected by 2043, white people will no longer be the majority population in this country. So you have people preying on their fears and lying to them, and instead of them saying, wait a second, you're both being manipulated by the powers that be. Instead of them saying that, they want to say, oh no, it's those people who are poor, who came from another country, fleeing violence, etc., looking for another way of life. They're why you don't have a job. That's not why you don't have a job. Why did the corporations hire those people then? That's not why you don't have a job. So it's game recognizes game, okay? So this is what has to happen. So we have to expose what's here and connect this to policy. And I break it down when I teach about political self-defense. It's whose policies are most beneficial for African Americans, whose policies will do the least amount of harm, who can create an environment for us to push our agenda the farthest and get the most accomplished. I hear people say, I'm not voting for anybody that doesn't have a black agenda. Well, you don't understand. A black agenda is not what politicians give us, that's what we give them. You have this backwards. But to put together an agenda, you have to understand history, economic law, and politics. Also, who will protect gains that have already been made? That's something that we don't understand. It's not only what somebody can do for you, it's also understanding how to block and stop what other people are trying to do to you. We have to assess what happened during the election cycles, what was gained, to understand what was at stake, because there's always something on the ballot at stake. Okay? If we understood that there were 3 Supreme Court justices at stake in 2016, more of us would have voted. Okay? And that's a lifetime appointment. Okay? The next president could appoint another 2 Supreme Court justices. That's a lifetime appointment. Okay? The judicial branch of government interprets law from the legislative branch and executive orders and policies from the executive branch. So when you had an executive order on student loan forgiveness that would have benefited about 40 million people. It would have lifted 500,000 African-American families from a negative net worth to a positive net worth, but it was overturned by 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. Everybody was like, I don't understand what happened. Well, I told you what was going to happen in 2016 if you didn't get your behind out there and vote. Okay, you thought I was playing. When I was on 910 AM, WFDF, every Sunday night and on Thursdays with Steve Hood, wake up with Steve Hood, and warning people what was going to happen, they thought I didn't know what. No, I'm a historian. When you understand history, you can predict the future. You can see this stuff coming. Okay? If we understood George Wallace and Richard Nixon, we would have seen somebody else coming. Okay? So this is why history does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. Okay? So your understanding of politics is directly related to your understanding of history. So this is why we have to have a synthesis of both of these.
This is going to be my last question before I open the questions up to our guests towards you this evening. And I love the way you just segmented that into history. So,
thank you.
You're welcome. So what key takeaways from the agenda of Project 2025 should we consider when making our decision at the ballot box on November 5th?
There is nothing in Project 25 that's for you. Let's start there. Real simple. There's not a word, not an adjective, a comma. Nothing in this will support, like Mike said, your past, your present, or your future. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I agree with that. And also, we have to understand the importance of state and local elections, because versions of Project 2025 have already been implemented at state and local levels, especially in the South, in these former Confederate states. So I would encourage everybody. Now, number one, I have videos dealing with Project 2025. You go to my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, or my Facebook fan page, the African History Network. I'm on Roland Martin and Filter talking about it, and I have videos as well breaking this down. I would encourage people.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep on YouTube, 80,000 subscribers there. My Facebook fan page, the African History Network, I have 1 million followers on Facebook. So I would encourage people, you can get it straight from the horse's mouth. Kevin Roberts, who's the director of the Heritage Foundation. He was interviewed a few months ago on MSNBC The Weekend, and it was Michael Steele, Simone Sanders. Go watch that video, Google it. Right. He's telling you what they're going to do. Yes. And they're sitting up looking at him like he sounds crazy, because he does sound crazy, but this is exactly what they're going to do. Okay, in 1981, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media, things like that. They were able to pull it off. Okay, today we have social media, people are learning about this, and there are polls out there that show the more people learn about Project 2025, the less they like it. Okay, so we have to stop them at the ballot box.
That's right. November the 5th.
Or now.
Or
early voting is going on right now.
That's the last day you can vote. That's the last day you can vote.
What time is it? 8 o'clock?
7:12.
Well, you can do it tomorrow, but it closes late today.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, like I said, there are plenty of people out here who may have some questions that we did not go over this evening. Are there any questions from anyone?
Does anyone have a question? First, I will just say for myself, this has been very informative. I have read this has been very informative, and I like the historical context that you put into it. I'm gonna have to tune in, but it's been very informative. And for me, my major thing is what I've been saying to people is I have a daughter and 2 granddaughters. I don't want them to have less rights in their lives than I have today.
Correct.
Or than what my mother had. So that is very important to me. That's one of my key issues. All of it is my issues, but my daughter and my granddaughters and the rights in their bodies are my key issue for me. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, what's the key issue for you? But just having the historical context has been just amazing to listen to both of you. So does anyone have any questions, comments for these wonderful?
Did y'all learn anything?
Yes,
Y'all learn anything?
Thank you so much.
And I'd just like to mimic what she said as far as the information that you gave. And my background being a not historian, but teaching history and so on in government. Would you say that the Project 2025 is alluding to the United States becoming a totalitarian or a authoritarian or even something as far as apartheid if November 5th is not successful?
Well, yeah, democracy is definitely on the ballot. Yeah, it's sliding toward totalitarianism. When you look at the graph of power with the U.S. Supreme Court, when you look at the Supreme Court ruling that basically a sitting president is immune from prosecution if they're carrying out their duties, and it's sketchy how you're going to define what their duties are. Okay, you have a judge in Georgia trying to figure that out now, and then you also have overturning of the Chevron decision, which which has been in place for decades, and that dealt with experts in the various federal departments being the ones that you go to shape policy. Okay, the experts, the doctors, the scientists, things like this. Well, with the overturning of that by the Supreme Court, now that is power is being given to the courts, okay, to really be able to determine that. So you have a slipping away of power from the people and giving it to a small group of people, giving it to the courts. Now, there has been a concerted effort to, and this is one of the things that a lot of African Americans haven't understood. We focus on the president, but we don't understand that the president nominates Supreme Court justices as federal judges. They get confirmed by the Senate. Okay, so we don't understand that. A lot of us don't understand. Yeah, you also have to vote for the U.S. Senate as well, because the Senate confirms Supreme Court justices, and it can block Supreme Court justices also. You got to vote for the U.S. House of Representatives. The U.S. House of Representatives, that's where the budget originates, the fiscal year budget. Okay, and they're mandated by the U.S. Constitution to pass a budget. They haven't passed the budget. This 219th Congress, they're on their third continuing resolution. They're feckless and have not passed the budget yet. Okay, so we have to understand this. And then just lastly, I gotta for people, one, read the U.S. Constitution. Okay, because the Constitution is the foundation of all this. It takes 270 electoral college votes to become president-elect. Because I heard people in 2016 saying the electoral college doesn't matter. The popular vote doesn't matter, it's the electoral college. You win electoral college votes associated with a state by winning the popular vote in the state. Okay? It's right in the U.S. Constitution. Now, if no candidate gets 270 electoral college votes, it's decided in the House of Representatives. But it's not an individual vote by individual members. They vote by what's called delegation. Each state has one delegation. Okay, now you have one side that controls 26 of the 50. You only need a simple majority. Okay, that's the one that's in control of the House of Representatives right now. So if you have a candidate, if you have a candidate that loses the electoral college vote and loses the popular vote, if no candidate gets 270, then the House of Representatives, the people who are in control right now, they can put that person who lost the popular vote in House, they can put them in power again as president.
The Republicans are hold up the House of Representatives. Well, I didn't want to say that, y'all. I mean, right. But I understand you know. And the Senate is on a thread with the Democrats. I said it.
But it's all in the U.S. Constitution. There's a reason why they never wanted slaves to read and write. Because if you read the U.S. Constitution, then all this stuff falls in. You start understanding all this, and you understand how all this deals with history.
One more thing. We had two senators, African Americans, one from Howard University in the 1800s. I just wanted to say that. Part of the history.
Yeah, Hiram Rhodes Rebels.
That's right.
And you had, P.B.S. Pinchback, he was a governor.
Senators.
Yeah, senator. Yeah, Hiram Rhodes Rebels was a senator.
And when they realized that they might, they realized that they, our senators, would have power, they undercut them. Right. Wipe them out.
Yeah. And lastly, going back to when you were talking about abortions and what have you, I thought you were going to take it a little further as far as the government getting into your business, as far as requiring the doctors as to tell about women's physicals, when your cycles are. I mean, getting that deep so that they can control what's going on in your life as far as the population, I guess, as far as
Oh, it's not even a guess. This says in writing, you're right. That one eliminate abortion, any health support like birth control pills. Your doctor could be tried and convicted. Tried and convicted, but is required, based on this information, to give up your information, my information about who we are with, and guess what? All those folk who maybe, I don't know how many, you know what year, that may be of a different persuasion, and they married one another, that would be eliminated, and against the law. Against the law. Number two, interracial relationships. Against the law. We talk about law. Against the law. It's not like, well, we really want to have a new generation of different people. No. This is about law. You can be tried and convicted on who you love and who you want to make love to and with. There will be an open book on what you do, how you do it, when you do it, and how you feel. Period. Against the law.
Thank you all so much for this. I really learned a lot. I do have a quick question about sustainability. So I am very proud of the work that my team and I are doing at Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. We work in the Office of Equity and Minority Health. And we really are doing our best to be very intentional when it comes to health equity and access, making sure that we, like you spoke about, integrate policy, economics, as well as communication. We are very concerned about what the social economy will be next year. So right now we are trying to do our best to have conversation about sustainability. What do we do in the case that Trump is in office? Do you have any advice or any resources we should look into to start planning just in case?
You can follow me to Canada. It's late.
So this is what I would say. We have to get this information to our friends, family members, flood our social media platforms with it. There's a good series of videos. They're on YouTube and Instagram. Black Men Read Project 2025. Black Men Read Project 2025. They has everyday brothers reading from Project 2025, finding out these policies and finding out how it impacts them, their parents, family members, etc. Okay, so when you read it and you understand these different policies and you see how it impacts you on an individual level, then it really becomes real. Okay, that's one. Two, I would say, watch Roland Martin Unfiltered, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Follow him on YouTube, Roland Martin. I'm on every Friday. I'll be on this Friday. And give us a shout out. AKA, I'll give the AKAs a shout out as well. I'll give the AKAs a shout out, definitely. But share this information. Joanne Reed on MSNBC has good videos dealing with Project 2025. She has dedicated like one show each day to a chapter of it. Also, Ali Velshi on MSNBC, he has a lot of good information on as well. Yeah, he has a lot. He was the first one I heard talk about it in September of 2023. So we have to get this information, especially to young brothers, young African American men, say 18 to 35, who think that this doesn't impact them or think that these are only policies for women. No, this directly impacts you. And one of the things that is taking place is you have they want to give police 100% immunity from criminal prosecution. Okay? They want to give police, they're openly saying this. The other thing is they not only want to dismantle the Department of Education, but If schools teach about the history of slavery and teach that this country was built on the backs of slaves, things like this, they want to withhold funds from those schools. They don't want to fund those schools also. They're openly saying this. As recently as October 18th, 2024 on Fox and Friends, they're openly saying this.
Including our HBCUs, but I want to go back to you in terms of organization, and this goes back to communication. Remember, I started off and I said the media really has major control over thoughts, feelings, and what we see in images. And now media has expanded now and includes the new technology and all sorts of platforms. But you got to learn how to use it to your advantage. So your organization, even if he's in, we don't go, African Americans and progressive people never backed up off of the issue. We've been here before. He's not the first one, won't be the last. We have walked through the fire and come out with, rusted knees and put the Vaseline on it and keep rolling along. So I'm saying to you, put together a plan of action that will speak your truth in your organization and put it out there to the community by any means necessary. It can be a flyer at the Kroger's, it could be on this platform, it could be on come to the organization, the chapter meetings, share that information of what's going on, put a podcast together. You can do that. If you have a reason and a purpose and a message that will impact your life and the lives of the people in your community, you have a message, you need to be responsible in putting that out there. You can do that. So don't back up. Surely we will probably be in a fetal state for about a week, but we got to get up, get busy, and survive and thrive. That's what we do.
So we have two more questions on the floor.
Hello. I'll speak to them afterwards. Just to make sure that I'm making clear that it's more than just communication. Just like you all said, systemic. So curriculum is more than communication. So I was thinking more about systemic practice because we need funding to support our evaluators. We need funding to support those who are doing the research, working with the administration. Actually, I compensate community members to be at the table. So I want to make sure that that's clear because people give us this advice. It sounds great on paper, but we're more. So thank you.
I got you.
Hello, thank you again for your time, your energy, and your effort. It is greatly appreciated. My name is Tony, and I have a question in regards to finance and money that Project 2025 has funded and had. I know we talked about the Heritage Foundation, but are there any other organizations or platforms or even elected officials who are pro the Project 2025 so that we can go and fight against what they are advocating for?
Well, yeah, at their website, they have a list of about 100 organizations that have signed on to it or have been involved in writing it. Also, they list the names of the people who have been involved in writing it as well. So a lot of them served in the last administration. But if you go to heritagefoundation.org, I think it is. But actually, if you go to project2025.org, that is the website the Heritage Foundation has set up. You can actually download the 922-page agenda from there. And because I've been on their website and done a lot of research on their website. Okay, so you can start there. But also when you watch those videos, like Russell Vought is one of them. Okay, Russell Vought is an architect of Project 2025. And when you watch like Ali Velshi show and videos on YouTube from Ali Velshi on MSNBC, he tells you who some of these people are.
Right. And on the other side, I would like for you to start right with someone that I think we care about. Start with, on the other side, in terms of information, go to Obama's foundation. And he has a long list of support or organizations and funders that really work on progressive programs, etc. That's just one. Just start there. Just start there. Obama Foundation. Just type it in, and you'll get a great deal of information on the other side who will speak maybe your truth. Maybe your truth. And maybe you will be able to identify also other organizations that support, your truth.
I was just speaking to the fact that, a lot of times that could be a great tool to like boycott, and get their names out so that we can definitely, be against what they're.
So, yeah, what you can do is you can find out some of the organizations, but also if they are elected officials in office, especially at the federal level, you go to fec.gov, which is the Federal Elections Commission's website. At fec.gov, it tells you for each official at the federal level, U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives, President, it tells you organizations that have donated to their campaigns, things of this nature, so you can organize nationwide economic boycotts against them. Okay, don't just do local boycotts. Do nationwide economic boycotts. If we had done that in 2020, when they came out with when you had a list of corporations that signed on to the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, I was saying this is what we need to do. People didn't listen to me. Take the top 5 corporations and launch nationwide economic boycotts against them for them to put pressure on the people who are obstructionists to the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So what happens is we'll beat up on the people who want to vote for it. You need to go after the obstructionists.
That's right.
We give the obstructionists a pass. We don't understand how to play politics to win. Okay, and people keep making this mistake, and they keep saying, "Oh, well, they're not going to be responsive to us," things like this. The people who keep voting against what you want, you're giving them a pass by not creating opposition for them. You give the people who want to vote for the bill and who are your ally, you give them hell, okay? And then they'll end up getting voted out of office. Then where are you?
Absolutely. Another organization, which I happen to be the president of, Unbossed, founded by Shirley Chisholm, Congress of Black Women. Go to that website, and trust me on that. I will respond.
We have one more question.
Thank you. And just going back to the beginning, when you said this plan, this project has been in place or been formalized for over 50 years, right? If I remember
Going back
correctly.
to 1981 when they had the first mandate for leadership version.
Okay. And my question, and then we talked about how the first time it really got on our radar, honestly, was at the BET Awards. Taraji P. Henson mentioned it, and everybody said, "What is that?" And that was a year ago. Why?
That was earlier this year. That was like
Was that
July.
early this year?
It was
That
just
like
this
July.
year.
Yeah, it was like
Oh,
July.
I thought it was like, so it was this year's BET. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why had we not heard about this before this June when she said it? Is there a reason why it came up now? Or I'm wondering that, if it's been around since 1981.
It's because she used her platform at the BET Awards to talk about it, and then that night it started trending on Google searches. Okay, prior to that, people hadn't really talked about it because a lot of us haven't been focused on politics, or will get focused on like the presidential election or something like that. But you're not looking at the power that surrounds the power. You're not looking at, for instance, the Heritage Foundation and Fairless Society. They sent lists of potential Supreme Court justices and federal judges to the previous president. That's where those judges came from. The Heritage Foundation and Fairless Society. So when you tap into Roland Martin Unfiltered, you tap into MSNBC, CNN, you tap into this information, you'll see this. These names are household names to me. They give you just a quick example, right? To show you. See, they do long range planning. We plan from the first of the month to the end of the month. First of the month to the end of the month. They do long range planning, right? When 2017, right? After 2016, Myra Selby, African American female judge out of Chicago. She was nominated to the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. 2016, nominated to the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. Her nomination was blocked, okay, by the Senate. When the next president came in, they filled her seat with Amy Coney Barrett, 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. That put Amy Coney Barrett on the trajectory to be on the Supreme Court when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. Okay, so they're playing grandmaster level chess. We're playing beginner's checkers and don't even understand all the rules to checkers. They're playing the long game, and the long game is controlling the courts. This is how you got the overturning of the Chevron decision. This is how you got striking down the executive order for student loan forgiveness. This is how you got affirmative action in college admissions overturned in the courts. Ed Bloom, the same one that sued the Fearless Fund, he's the one that got affirmative action overturned in the courts. They said it was a violation of the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment was for African Americans, 1868. They're playing the long game. We have to do the same thing.
One of the other things that I want people to understand, that even though there's an election going on right now, politics is a part of your daily life.
Absolutely.
Even that tag on your mattress was regulated by the federal government. You understand what I'm trying to say? So even on November the 6th, you have to play the long game. We have to go back to looking and finding out who's on the right side of the answer to your lifestyle. Who is going to support what you do, how you do it, what you want to do in your community? Who is going to be that person? Who decided to vote against student loans? Who was that? You need to know that.
Yeah. Right.
And call them on it.
So what you can do, go to congress.gov.
Yes.
Congress.gov, every bill that comes out of the House of Representatives or U.S. Senate, you can read it or read a summary at congress.gov, whether it passed or not. And most importantly, it tells you who voted for the bill and who voted against the bill. That's at congress.gov. If you're a member of the House of Representatives overwhelmingly keeps voting for bills that you advocate for, why would you let them get voted out of office?
Right.
Because you don't like their hair, or don't like what they said last night, or things like this, right? Because most likely the person that replaces them is going to be worse. If you're two members of the U.S. Senate overwhelmingly keep voting for bills that you advocate for, why would you let them get voted out of office because you don't like what a senator in Arizona or West Virginia did or said? Okay, so we have to understand how to play this game to win and understand political self-defense.
And that is not just national. That's your local responsibility too. You can check how people vote for you from school board, city council, commissioner, state rep, senate rep, governor, etc. It is your right to do that. And frankly, it's your responsibility.
What a powerful, dynamic conversation and discussion. Can we all give everyone a round of applause? Phenomenal. Very much needed conversation and discussion that we can take back to our family, friends, and networks, and do as they have recommended, visiting all of these websites to gain more information and knowledge so that we can be educated and informed when we go and vote. Yes. Because we know that education matters, history matters. We would like to take this time to thank you all for taking time out this evening to come and share your expertise and your knowledge with us. So again, let's give them a round of applause. Mr. Imhotep, Mrs. Perryman. We also thank our moderator, Attorney Jennifer Nance. It's phenomenal. We also want to acknowledge State Representative Kimberly Edwards out of House District 12, who could not join us this evening, but we thank her for her support. We can give that a and we want to also acknowledge Mr. Alex Allen, President of the Metro Detroit National Pan-Hellenic Council, who was instrumental and very supportive of us with this event. And if you have any words that you would like to share, okay. Thank you. So we do have thank you cards and gifts that are forthcoming for your participation and support today. Thank you so very much. And we also want to thank our audience. We want to thank the community. Thank you all. So you all can stand up, give yourselves a round of applause and a standing ovation for being here this evening and helping us get the word out about such an important proposed agenda that could affect our quality of lives if the decision is made in that regard. But we all need to be educated and informed and make sure that we are sharing this information with our networks. At this time, we will have announcements by our respective chapters, and I do want to also acknowledge all of our chapters and groups who have partnered with us in this effort. The Lambda Pi Omega chapter, let's give them a round of applause. They just have comments and of course, the Detroit Renaissance Pearls, an official interest group of Alpha Incorporated. Also, the Detroit branch NAACP is a proud supporter of Alpha Incorporated. And just before I hand over the mic, I do want to impart upon you to please visit the tables that we have set up, where there are more upcoming events, more get out the vote efforts that we are mobilizing and engaging the community around voting. One of our moderators said earlier, and our panelists said, to get out and vote now. We don't have to wait until November 5th. Early voting in Detroit started October 19th. Absentee voting started earlier than that, so we want to continue encouraging people to vote early and not wait until November 5th. So again, visit our table with upcoming events and partner with us. Make sure you sign up. The sign-in sheets are at the front table. We want you to partner. We want this to be a partnership effort with the community to make sure that we're mobilizing everyone.
So again, thank you on behalf of Lambda Pi Omega chapter. I'm glad that we were able to come together as a Detroit community to bring this to the community, because service is what we do. One of the things, so for us, we're all doing voting. As she said, voting started October 19th. It's every day from 9 a.m. to 5, Monday through Sunday. If you're not in the city of Detroit, it starts this Saturday, October 26th to November 3rd. From that day all the way through Sunday, from 9 to 5 every day. You can get up, you can go to work, you can go vote. After church, you can go vote. And our goal is to take 4 more to the polls. So I'm encouraging everyone to text 4 people, call 4 people, go get 4 people out the bed and tell them to go vote. I also encourage you to get a green wristband. We are passing these out at our chapter. It says, "Your voice is your vote. Are you registered?" As a reminder to ask someone if they're registered, and then to pass it along to the next person. Once you've reached out to someone, pass it along to the next person so that we make sure that we're getting out the vote, because Michigan is a critical state, and we know, and we were advised by our Detroit City Clerk, who is a member of our chapter, that what happens in Detroit can swing the whole state. If we can get Detroit out to vote, we can control the state. So just make sure we have Sword to the Polls. Pay attention to our social media. We are on Facebook, Alpha Kappa Alpha Lambda Pi Omega chapter. We are also AKA_LPO on Instagram. We have Sword to the Polls coming up, and we also have election day activities, and we'll be having an election night watch party. So I hope that everyone does their part. Let's get out 4 or more, and let's Sword to the polls.
And I promise you this is my last comment. If we could have all of the advocate for social justice committees from Alpha Rho Omega chapter, Lambda Pi Omega chapter, and the Detroit Renaissance Pearls, if everyone could please stand. And that's everyone in the room, because we're all advocate for social justice members, but the members from each of those respective organizations and those committees, please stand and be recognized. Again, we thank you so much for making this event a success. Okay, have a good evening. Thank you so much. Make sure you sign the sign-in sheet. Refreshments are still available, and there are gift bags in the back of the room. So please take a bag as you leave the room. Thank you so much.